Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here. Welcome to B-Ball Breakdown. We have our Effin' Fantasy Show, and we got Tom Lorenzo with us to start talking about Rajon Rondo. What's his story? Is he coming back? Oh, he is back. How has he been doing so far?
He's back, and he's been playing well, not in the same kind of all-star caliber level. Played well against the Nets, though, had 13 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, kind of very Rondo-esque numbers. Did have 6 turnovers. But the one thing fantasy owners want to be careful of is they're not playing him on back-to-back nights. They're trying to kind of ease him in and be cautious with him. So if you do have him in your starting lineup, you want to follow the news and make sure that you don't have him in on an off night or you get him in on the right night, because they want to be careful with Rondo. He's their future. He's their guy. He's back, but you still got to be careful with how they kind of ease him along.
I watched him play a little bit, and he does look really good. A little bit rusty, but man, the energy in the building is just 100,000% higher. It's really great when you have that. I can't believe that they would have ever painted him as a guy that would not get along with Brad Stevens and not do well on that team.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is Rondo's team now, and I think that really helps the relationship. He knows where he stands. It's not a matter of listening to Doc, Paul, KG, Ray. He is the guy, and he and Stevens are 1A and 1B on that team. So, he's got his confidence back. And I think for fantasy owners, too, it also trickles down to the other guys. Guys like Brandon Bass, Jared Sullinger getting better looks under the basket because Rondo's attacking and kicking. So your Celtics guys, in terms of fantasy numbers, they should go up thanks to Rondo because he's doing a great job.
So what do you think his numbers are going to be going forward? Independent of the notion that he's not going to play every game, what do you think he's going to average?
Yeah, look, Rondo's never been a guy to score 20, 25 points a game. So I think if you can get him in that 16 to 18 point per game range would be great. Then you'll also get 9 assists, and he rebounds well, maybe in that 5-6 rebounds per game. So the numbers will be great. The steals will be there. Just, again, don't expect the scoring to go up just because he's the number one guy. That's just never been a part of his game.
And then we also have to be careful that as the Celtics want to tank and not win too many games, those injuries might suddenly crop up again a little bit, and he'll sit even more. So we'll have to keep our eye on that. Let's move on to DJ Augustin, who's filled in for the Bulls, who were decimated and looking like they were about to tank as well. But they found a little rejuvenation. What's he been doing?
Yeah, Augustin's been great. Here's a guy who's kind of stepped out, led the team in scoring. He's averaging about, I think it's 21.5 points per game over his last 5. Just kind of super impressive for a guy who was in the league, out of the league, couldn't find a home. He's just kind of filled in for Derrick Rose, for Kirk Heinrich, who's hurt right now. And same situation in Chicago. The Bulls are going through a lot of change, a lot of injuries, trying to find right matchups. And right now, DJ Augustin's kind of that one guy that's really clicking and is healthy. So, fantasy owners should pick him up and ride him out because he's playing great basketball right now.
Shocking to me, because what he looked like in the playoffs last year at the Pacers was so bad. I didn't think he was an NBA guard. Literally, he didn't have the skills. So I've seen a little bit of this now, and he just kind of looks like he's keeping his head above water, barely. But then next thing you know, he's got 20 points. Going forward, what do you think realistically he'll be able to average in assists?
It's going to come down a bit. Kirk Heinrich is probably closer to returning at the end of the week, so you'll see DJ Augustin's minutes come down. But I think he can be valuable and maybe a secondary guy off the bench. Give you anywhere from 13 to 15 points, maybe like 4.5 assists per game, which is, I think decent value off the bench for the Bulls. There's definitely something to be said about guys who are really fighting for a job in the league as well. He's someone who wants to stick, he wants a contract, so, he's going to play his butt off. So I think he's going to give you some decent value even when Kirk Heinrich comes back.
And I also think that he's probably afraid to take bad shots, so in theory that'll mean his field goal percentage will stay up a little bit because he'll take the shots he knows he can make. But just really blowing my mind that he's actually doing so well. The other thing about Kirk Heinrich, though, we have to know is that he's injury prone and could very well land right back on an injury list as well. And then all of a sudden, Augustin is again a real fantasy value.
Yeah, and especially as the season goes on, if you see the Bulls start sliding down in the standings and out of the playoffs, hold out Kirk Heinrich, hold out guys like Noah, Boozer, and you give the reins to DJ Augustin and whoever else you have in there, Jimmy Butler, and just let those guys play. So yeah, it's a good call on that as well.
Well, we have a cross-promotion alert because we just did a breakdown on Terrence Ross's 51 points that were really impressive against the Clippers in a loss. And let's focus on him and what his fantasy value is. What are you seeing from him, Tom?
Great game by Terrence Ross. I think he's a scorer. He's a kid with a bunch of upside. You have to be a little careful, of course, because it's easy to get excited when somebody comes out of nowhere and scores 51 points. But you also have to take a nod and look, DeMar DeRozan didn't play. DeRozan won't play tonight or Monday night against the Nets. So he will be back and is expected back later on in the week, which will, it won't completely knock Terrence Ross off the radar, but obviously the touches will come down, the shot attempts will come down. But I do think, he's a kid who can score. He can shoot the long ball. Obviously, we saw with the threes. And is definitely somebody who should be on your radar and should continue to be on your radar even when DeRozan comes back. Just don't expect those kind of high-ceiling 50-point games to pop up anytime soon.
It's been crazy because I've been on the bandwagon for Terrence Ross since last year, and I think that he is following in Paul George's footsteps. I think he could be an elite defender, and he's got a more polished game in his second year than Paul George did, even though their ages don't match up that way. So I think that we're in the process of watching a guy slowly, morph into a legitimate scorer. But yeah, I don't think that he's going to go from averaging 10 a game for the whole first half of the season to 20. But I would expect him to get into the 15-point per game range the rest of the season.
Yeah, and that's fantastic value if you're looking for somebody to boost your scoring for fantasy. He's definitely there and can do that. You're right, but I think, temper those expectations coming off the 51-point game. He may have some 20-point games kind of sprinkled in there along the way, but, I think you're right in that, 15, 16-point per game range is probably where he'll sit.
Yeah, I love him. I think he's going to be a really great player, fantasy numbers aside, because he's not shooting great, but I got to say, I'm looking forward to watching him progress. Beautiful jump shot, by the way, so that field goal percentage should just go up just as he gets more confidence. Well, speaking of that, let's talk about Ryan Kelly over on the Lakers, who is almost slightly connected to, in my mind, DJ Augustin because of what's happening with Kendall Marshall as well. Because Kendall Marshall and DJ Augustin are both sort of these lefty, slow point guards that are doing well. Ryan Kelly, is it the system or is it the Duke pedigree?
It could be a little bit of both. I think the system is a big part of it. I think also, it's a team looking for size. It's a team, the Lakers are looking for answers. They're looking for some help there down low. Ryan Kelly's not, the big bruiser kind of guy, but, he kind of fits into that D'Antoni system. And I think, another thing about Mike D'Antoni, he's known famously for riding the hot hand. He's somebody who'll give guys a chance, and if you show up and you do what you got to do, you do your job, he's going to give you that chance. The situation against the Knicks, he played, I think it was 18 minutes against the Knicks, 20 minutes against the Knicks. That was more of a matchup situation. The Knicks were going small. You had Carmelo at the 4. Somebody you couldn't expect Ryan Kelly to really hang with Carmelo. But I think overall, I think D'Antoni's going to give him a look. And he's definitely somebody you should consider and see kind of where he fits into your fantasy lineup.
Yeah, I think he's good for a 3 or 2, and he's not really effectual in a lot of other places. He's not going to get you any assists, and I don't think he's going to do much in the defensive end, steals-wise or blocks. So I will say that, when he came into the league, his body was so, it didn't look strong enough or athletic enough to really have an impact. But it looks like he's been working on that. He looks like he's more physically, ready to perform. But I don't know. I feel like he might just be another one of those guys that somehow is in that real loose, spread out D'Antoni offense and is just benefiting from the freedom just to be able to jack it up whenever he wants.
Well, yeah, but fantasy ebb and flow. You got to kind of find those guys. You ride them for a bit, and then you kind of know when to stop. You know when that moment is to say, okay, Ryan Kelly's had his day, time to move on. So, if you are in that kind of era looking for a big man to step out, give you some points, give you some threes, now's the time to ride him before that ride's over. Beautiful.
Well, let's review real quick. Let's do a buy or a sell. So, DJ Augustin, should we keep him or sell high?
I would keep him. I would definitely hold on to DJ Augustin.
Okay, Terrence Ross, you think the keeper or trade?
Depends on what you get for him. I think right now you can get good value coming off the 51-point game. But I think by the end of the week, you're probably going to see his value come down. And in that case, I think you should hold on to him. But now if you can get good value off that 51-point game, I would definitely sell him.
All right. And then Ryan Kelly, what's your stance?
Ryan Kelly, pick him up if you can. If he's there, you want to put him in for a couple games. If somebody wants to trade for him, I think you make the move. He's not a long-term option, but again, in the ebb and flow of fantasy basketball, he's a right-now option. So, but other than that, I think I would sell him if I had him and somebody wanted him.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Tom, for joining us. Don't forget, everybody, head over to Nets Daily to watch and read what he's doing over there with the Brooklyn Nets. Great stuff there. Follow him at Tom Lorenzo. And Tom, we'll see you next week.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
Hey, sports fans. We got some bonus coverage for our Effin' Fantasy show. We have Sam Hauss on from, he's a writer for numberfire.com, and definitely check him out on Twitter and on their website. And Sam, let's break into it and talk about some players that you really like on fantasy.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Coach Nick. I'm excited to be on. There's two guys that I really want to focus on here. Two guys who are a little overlooked because of where they play and how young they are. The first one being Isaiah Thomas. He's a 24-year-old point guard for the Kings out in Sacramento. He started when he started the season. He wasn't the starter, and he was starting behind Grievous Vasquez. They had Ben McLemore playing a little bit. Now that he's been inserted into the starting role, he's gotten a lot more minutes. He's looking really impressive. Since he's been named the starter, which was 25 games ago, he's only had single-digit scoring twice and only 3 games with less than 5 assists, which is really impressive, especially considering how young he is and how much production. And he's been playing, 35 minutes a game, and all but one game has he played 35 minutes or more.
But it's great to hear you tell us that there is a notion of fantasy value as well, because I don't think he's shooting as well as a lot of fantasy people would probably prefer, right?
Yeah, I mean, his percentages are a little low, but he's up from the last couple of years. He's up. He's got like a pretty decent true shooting percentage. And the fact of the matter is the Kings use him on so many possessions. He just gets so many opportunities. He's up to a 26% usage percentage. So, I mean, even though his percentages are a little lower than you'd hope, because of how consistent he is and how many touches he gets, he's really valuable to own.
Absolutely. Well, tell us another player that you have your eye on that people, might be overlooking a little bit.
Yeah, the next guy is one of the youngest guys in the league. It's Andre Drummond from Detroit Pistons. He's been a double-double machine. He's got double-doubles in other than last night against the Dallas Mavericks. He's got double-doubles in his last 7 games. He's averaging now 12 and 12. And he also brings, a steal and a half per game and almost 2 blocks per game. So he's been incredible, and he's so young and he's so talented. He is the guy in all dynasty formats that I would target. He's only 20 years old, and I still think he's a little overlooked. And especially coming off of a 4.6 rebound performance against Dallas, he's a buy low target for sure.
Wow, that's terrific. Well, so really great insight, and make sure, everybody, to check out Sam's stuff on numberfire.com. It's really great. In fact, numberfire.com is terrific and really insightful, so definitely check everything that they're doing. Sam, thanks for all your great insight. Looking forward to getting our guys out there in their leagues and doing well, and we'll see you real soon.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.